Hey everybody in pre-cal. I've been asked to work a couple of these problems out on your sheet from today at the very bottom. So I'm going to start and I'll just work a few of these out for you because it involves drawing a sketch, but some of them are kind of weird because you've got an outer function that is the same name as the inner function, and I'm going to show you a diagram of what makes sense, but you'll know from now on if the outer function is the same as the inverse function as far as the name, like cosine of cosine inverse, then basically all you're going to have left is what the value of the theta or the x is. So let me explain. Okay, this one's just kind of odd. All right, but I'm going to show it to you. Okay, so we've got the cosine of cosine, and it wants us to express it in terms of x only when we're finished. Okay, and it tells us that x is positive. Okay, well obviously you know that cosine is restricted from 0 to pi, okay, and if cosine's positive, that means according to a smart trig class we have to draw our diagram in quadrant 1, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, we also know that this is x over 1. Well, cosine's recipe, I know this is going to look weird, but just remember this x is talking about the x-axis, this is talking about the number of units. It could just as easily be radical 5 or radical 3 or a or b or something. Okay, so we're just going to label our little triangle. We know we're in first quadrant. So x is equal to x, all right, the x value. And r is equal to 1. All right, so we've got our triangle structured. Well, now that we've got this structured, we're asked to find the cosine of that very thing. Well, you're just going to restructure cosine, right? So if you're looking for the cosine of what we just set up, then you're going to have x over r, which is x over 1, which is what you started with. So the point of this exercise is to make sure you understand that when you have an outer function and the inverse function is the same function, then all that you're going to be left with is that value. So you'll know it's a shortcut. All right, let me try another one. Let me pause. Okay, now I'm looking at number 71, and we're to bring our ratio in terms of x only, right? So this one we're going to start with sine inverse, right? And we know that this is x over 1, and you know that the sine recipe is y divided by r. We also know that sine is restricted from pi over 2 to negative pi over 2 in its domain, just like that. And remember, they're telling us in the problem that x is positive. So in this case, y is positive, which means sine is positive, which means if we're restricted to quadrant 1 or quadrant 4, then we're going to be sitting in quadrant 1, right? Because everything's positive here. So we're going to be in quadrant 1. So we're going to sketch our triangle, okay? And we'll sketch our triangle and we'll say, okay, I know that the inside information tells me that I have the makings of sine. So I have my y value, which is actually equal to x, so that's kind of strange. And then I have my r value, which is equal to 1. All right, we have our triangle set up. Now, what we have to find is cosine. And you know that cosine is x divided by r. So we are going to have to find our actual x-axis value. So y is equal to x, and we're going to actually find our x value. If you find it hard to do this, you can certainly substitute another letter in if you'd like, but I don't want to confuse anybody. All right, so now we're looking for this, okay? And the only way to do that is use your Pythagorean. So it's going to be x is equal to the square root of r squared minus y squared. So x is equal to the square root of 1 squared minus x squared, okay? Because that represents my y value, correct? All right, now we have x is equal to the square root, 1 squared is 1, minus x squared. All right. So in terms of finding our cosine, right, which is x over r, okay, we have our x now. Our r is 1, so this is the square root of 1 minus x squared. So your answer for the cosine outer, right, is x over r. That's equal to the square root of 1 minus x squared over 1. Or sorry, running out of room, or just 1 minus x squared. So this would actually be the final expression in terms of x only that represents this relationship. Okay, so that's what's going on here. But just remember, if you have the same term inside and out, and the inverse is on the inside and the non-inverse is on the outside, then all you're left with is just going to be this value here. That's kind of a shortcut. Okay, let me see if I can find one more to do. Let me pause for a second. Okay, I'm going to work two of the evens in that same section on this assignment for today. Okay, again, check this out. You've got inverse sine, and then you've got the sine of the inverse sine. So all you automatically know is that's just going to be that. All right, that's all you know. It's really x over 1, but we don't have to write the 1. Okay, so those are super easy. All right, let's structure this next one. All right, we've got cosine inverse. All right, so we start on the inside. We know that cosine is restricted from 0 to pi, so that means either quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. We are told in the initial instructions of this section that x is positive. Okay, so if we know it's cosine, then the ingredients or recipe is x over r. All right, so we are going to be in quadrant 1 because cosine is positive, and it's the only positive cosine in cosine's domain for inverse is here. So again, we're in the first quadrant. Okay, so we're going to sketch our triangle. All right, and we know that we have x over 1, so r equals 1, and x happens to equal x here, and y equals, well, we don't know what y equals. Okay, but is it important to find y? Yes, it is, because once we get this info going, we're going to have to find tangent. And so the tangent value, you know the recipe is y divided by x. So we need our y in our numerator. So we're just going to say, okay, I'm going to find y and say y is equal to the square root of r squared minus x squared. Y is equal to the square root of 1 squared minus x squared. Y is equal to the square root of 1 minus x squared. So we kind of have the same situation that we did in the other problem that we did. But now we have to find sine, right? I mean tangent. So tangent is going to be equal to, all right, y divided by x. Well, we just found y is the square root of 1 minus x squared. And then our x value, our denominator, is simply x. So this would be the expression in terms of x only that represents the tangent of the inverse cosine to x. Okay, hope you found that helpful. Remember, submit all lessons to me through my email, smithaa@sbaeagles.org, and send me a reminder. Please, Miss Smith, let me know that you got this. That way you'll have confirmation and I'll have confirmation. Okay? And until I get Teams set up, which I'm working on, but it's really hard right now because I got to stay on top of these lesson videos. Take care, guys. Miss you.